Senator, I want to play something that you said when you launched your own presidential campaign in May.
Sure. Victimhood or victory? Grievance or greatness?
Senator, you ran a very positive, very hopeful campaign, but victimhood and grievance that you were describing in your launch speech that we played some of right there sounds like Donald Trump. Did you change your mind?
Senator Tim Scott, who fairly recently decided to drop out of the GOP presidential primary, has now finally decided to endorse Donald Trump. In fact, he did so during a Trump rally in New Hampshire last Friday. Now, initially, Scott, who again dropped out in November, refused to back another candidate. Obviously, he has since changed his mind. Scott told Fox News's Trey Gowdy at the time that he would not back another Republican candidate, saying he believed the best way for me to be helpful was to withhold an endorsement in the primary. Scott also said he had no intention of accepting a vice presidential nomination, reaffirming a position he had repeated frequently on the campaign trail. But obviously that has changed, and as fellow South Carolinian Nikki Haley started to basically gain traction and experience a rise in the primary polling, he decided maybe I need to step in ahead of the New Hampshire primary, which is gonna take place this week on Tuesday. He even went as far as basically forgetting the foundation of his campaign and how it was at odds with Donald Trump's, and instead he focused on the faults of Joe Biden during this cable news interview. So let's take a look at how that went down.
We absolutely, positively, unequivocally need an America that's not filled with victims. I'm actually talking about how Joe Biden has destroyed our economy and made victims out of people waiting for the government to show up.
You did say on Friday, Senator, is that when you endorsed Donald Trump, is that he will, quote, restore law and order, which is some of what you're talking about here this morning. As president, yes. He did try to overturn a legitimate election. He called January 6 rioters hostages and promised to pardon them. He is charged with keeping classified documents and obstructing attempts to get them back. And on the campaign now, he's arguing that presidents should have total immunity even if they, quote, cross the line. How is that law and order?
But what I can tell you is that when you look around the cities, when you grow up in poor communities like I did, and you watch the crime ravishing your communities, you ask yourself, what president has allowed that to happen? It's Joe Biden. When you have DAs around the country that says it's no longer a crime to steal $1,000 worth of goods, and those stores start closing in San Francisco and across the country, you ask yourself, what president allowed that lawless behavior to continue? That's Joe Biden.
Now, I really wish Dana Bash followed up with Scott's claims that we got to move away from victimhood by asking about Trump constantly putting himself in the position of a victim. Oh, this is unfair. It's a witch hunt. Yes, I broke the law, but they're coming after me because it's a witch hunt. But no, she moved on and allowed him to go on with this nonsense about Joe Biden allegedly being in favor of soft on crime policies, which, listen, I have all sorts of issues with Joe Biden and his leadership, but I cannot latch that. I can't claim to criticize him with what Scott just criticized him with. Like, Biden's actually been very much against the whole defund the police, soft on crime stuff that's been going on in some of these Democratic states and Democratic cities. So you got to find something a little better to attack him with. But anyway, Cenk, curious what you thought about his statements there.
Yeah, so I thought Dana Bash did a really good job here. And you've seen us give her credit, you've seen her criticize her depending on the situation. But here, she kept asking great questions and he had no answers because there are no answers. So he's like, I'm against victimhood. There's no bigger crybaby victim in the country than Donald Trump. And if you're MAGA and you deny that, you don't even believe that. You know he's a crybaby. You just say anything about him, right?
He uses his rallies. I mean, look, he uses his rallies to air his grievances.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Like, that's all he does during his rallies these days.
Yeah, Festivus was made for Donald Trump, okay? All he does is air grievances. So the world's biggest victim wannabe. And then in terms of law and order, he's got 91 counts against him. And even if you think I mean, you can't possibly think they're all BS. I know a lot of MAGA guys do, right? Oh my God, my poor billionaire is being persecuted. I thought he was above the law like all the other elites, but now they won't let him be above the law. Come on, come on. No one who's in favor of Donald Trump can say they're for law and order. You can't. You could pretend, you could say it. It doesn't mean anything. You're an obvious hypocrite, giant hypocrite. Oh, on January 6th, they should be allowed to break the law. They should be allowed to break into the building. They should be allowed to threaten to murder the officials. Oh, you should be allowed to do fake electors instead of real electors. You should be allowed to break campaign finance laws. We all financial fraud. Of course, you should be allowed to do that. Why? Because I like him and I don't like you, right? So, okay, whatever. But Tim Scott, look, I'm. On the one hand, is he a giant liar? Of course he is. On the other hand, literally every Republican politician is an enormous liar now. So my patience for them has run completely out, zero, none. So what's he gonna say? Is he gonna be honest? Be like, yeah, of course Trump's a bitch, right? Of course, all he does is cry. He's not gonna say that. He's gonna say he's a hero and it's all Joe Biden's fault.
By the way, he's not just doing it to remain in the good graces of the Trump supporters. He's doing it, in my opinion, because he's still angling for a VP spot. Like, he claims that he's not looking to be VP. You should never believe a politician who says that. They're always lying when they say that. And I just think that that's what this is really about. In fact, there's all sorts of like conversations happening, all sorts of rumors swirling about how Trump is eyeing Scott as his VP pick. And in fact, Trump was asked about that. I want to fast forward to the last video here. He was asked about it during a recent conversation on Fox News. So let's take a look at what he had to say about the possibility of Scott being his VP pick.
Is Senator Tim Scott on the list now?
No, he's a great guy. You know, he endorsed me. There's an example. Nikki comes from South Carolina. Tim Scott is from South Carolina. But if you look, the governor, great governor, another senator, Lindsey, we happen to like Lindsey. But Henry McMaster knows her very well. He endorsed me. It's very hard for a governor to endorse somebody when you have, I mean, Henry McMaster was the lieutenant governor under her, and he endorsed me. Almost everybody in South Carolina has endorsed me. What does that tell you?
So you ask about the vice presidential, and then we get into the critique of one of the current rivals.
I gotta say, that was a masterful job taking a question about someone else and somehow turning it around so you only talk about yourself.
And
that was
like,
amazing.
That's the other thing, right? Like, as a Democrat, if I say something that is slightly self-aggrandizing, everybody will pulverize you. How dare you? This Trump guy, he goes around like, I'm like God, basically. I'm the greatest thing that's ever happened, man. Nobody knows energy better than me. Nobody knows healthcare better than me. Nobody knows anything better than me. And everybody's like, bravo, bro. Not everybody is in this media, et cetera. I mean, the Republican voters are like, oh, what a great braggart.
Right.
What an unbearable person. I love him.
But also his message is, oh yeah, I'm considering him because he endorsed me.
Yeah,
right? Like he's complimentary toward me. So that's why Tim Scott is willing to go on CNN. And honestly, for anyone who has two brain cells to rub together, you notice he makes a fool out of himself in the way he answers those questions because he wants to remain in Trump's good graces, because my theory is he's still angling for that VP pick.
That's not a theory, that's a fact. Come on. You're a United States Senator, you don't want to be vice president. And then you ran knowing you had no chance to win, and all you've done ever since is kiss Donald Trump. You waited to see whose ass you should kiss. Let's be honest about that. Oh, I'm not endorsing anyone in the primary. Oh, Trump's definitely gonna win. Oh, I'm endorsing Trump. Come on, get that. Look, I have no patience for any of these politicians, man. The media's been telling me my whole life they're honorable people and that we should have great respect for them. I have zero respect for them. I think these politicians are way, way worse than the average person. So when I look at a politician, I think like pathetic guy, right? And so if you're in this system, you're not an outsider, you're an insider. You had to be pathetic to get to that situation. So look, I want to say one more thing about Trump. Trump has turned the entire Republican Party into liars. Why? Because he lies pathologically. Everything, almost everything he says is a lie. But he's forced every Republican to kiss his ass. And so now they all have to back his dumbass lies. So they were already liars anyway, they're politicians. Like, oh yeah, no, I don't work for my donors. wink, right? But now it's just an extra layer. If Trump says that the moon is made of cheese, losers like Tim Scott have to go out and go, well, you know, it could be, it probably is made of cheese, but it's Joe Biden's fault.
But remember, he's doing that for his political career, right? That's what's motivating all of the yes men surrounding Donald Trump. And also consider the fact that, you know, Trump has repeatedly said that should he get elected for a second term, he will use that term to retaliate against his political opponents. And in order to do that, he needs to fill his cabinet with yes men. So as a result, you have people in the Republican Party competing with one another in regard to who can be the biggest loyalist or lapdog to Donald Trump, which is an interesting phenomenon to experience, especially since we've already seen what happens to members of Trump's cabinet, to Trump's vice president. We saw what happened to him, to Mike Pence. And people are still willing to like fight to the death to be in that kind of position of power when they know that it's very likely not gonna bode well for them unless they're willing to do everything that Trump wants them to do.
It's absolutely pathetic. I mean, the guy I can't understand most of all is Vivek Ramaswamy, because Tim Scott's a natural born loser whose job is to kiss up to donors and politicians that are above him, and he's consigned himself to being a pathetic groveler and servant of the powerful, right? But Ramaswamy has like $1 billion. He doesn't have to,
I know,
like humiliate himself on a daily basis. He's choosing to.
He could spend all day in the Amalfi Coast, okay? Vacationing, eating pasta.
On a yacht. He could do whatever the hell he wants. Instead, he's chosen to lick different parts of Donald Trump's body to humiliate himself publicly every day. What a pathetic choice. So go ahead, politicians like Tim Scott, go grovel, 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 and then maybe the dictator wannabe will anoint you. But he does have a good. I tell you, one of our members just swung me. I thought there's no way that he's going to pick Carrie Lake or Kristi Noem, et cetera, because he mainly judges based on looks. But Boomer Dragon Cat wrote in with 2 good points here. Tim Scott would be perfect for Trump VP, central casting, that's true, but not enough Riz to upstage him.
100%.
Okay.
100%. That is such a great point.
So Boomer Dragon Cat, first of all, $100 Blue Apron gift card. We haven't done that in a while. Email at rewards@tyt.com and they'll confirm that you're a member. But you're right. You reminded me like Trump. Like Kristi Noem might have too much Riz, and nice work on using the word Riz, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so, but Tim Scott's a perfect piece of lettuce, like just inoffensive, just sitting there, and a schlep who'll do anything you tell him to do with no morals, no moral compass, etc.
Final thing I'll say is he proposed to his girlfriend, and now he's engaged to be married.
Sure, of course he is.
I have some speculations about that, but I'm going to be a better person and not air those speculations.
No, I'm not. I'm going to be the worst person. Okay, put that picture back up. So number one, this is total sham. In my opinion, we'll see what happens, and they're not going to. If Trump doesn't pick him, they don't get married. That's my guess. Okay.
Okay, bold prediction. Let's make note of that.
Okay. Number 2, he's just auditioning for Trump here. He's like,
really
that's what I'll do.
Not true.
Like, no. I mean, getting on his hands and knees and going,
Cenk.
Oh, Donald, I'll do anything for you.
All right.
This is me auditioning. I'm on my knees. I'll even pretend to be straight. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. But he's been an eligible bachelor for a long, long time, and a girlfriend mysteriously popped up right as he decided that he was going to try to, stage, a run for VP here. Right at the end of his presidential run, all of a sudden a girlfriend popped up after 48 years or something, right? Huh, that's interesting how that works. Maybe he got lucky for the first time in his life. It's possible, he's a loser, so that's totally possible. I'm giving you all the options.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us, become a Young Turk.